Welcome to the show, Chris Graham and Rod Mullins. We're going to talk some NASCAR, some NHRA here on this show this week. We'll look back at Ryan Blaney's win this past Sunday in Nashville a little bit later in this, but we've kind of got some breaking news. In fact, when I say kinda, as we're recording this about an hour ago, a U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, vacated a preliminary injunction order that had allowed 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports to compete as charter teams. And so Rod, you and I have been talking about this case, this issue a
hmm
lot for the past almost year. It goes back to last summer
hmm
when NASCAR updated its charters and kind of put a gun to everybody's head, made them sign it in 48 hours, and those two
Exactly.
teams did not do so. Okay, first question, what does this do in the short term? How does this impact 2311 in Front Row in the short term?
Right now, I think it's just a loss for them. They've lost this appeal, so to speak. As we both know, the court system in one of these things, I think 23 and 11 and Front Row Motorsports are probably going to go back and appeal this judgment or something like that, and saying you don't have all the picture out of this whole thing. The lawyer said for 2311 and Front Row Motorsports, Jeffrey Kessler, he said, "We're disappointed by today's ruling by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. We're reviewing the decision to determine our next step." And according to him, also, the ruling is based on a very narrow consideration of whether a release of claims in the charter agreement is anti competitive and does not impact our chances of winning a trial scheduled for December 1st. So, by this, it means that it's still going to go to trial December 1st, right after the NASCAR season finishes. But it's, maybe put a cloud of uncertainty maybe over top of this whole proceeding thing leading up to it. Because here's been the big deal: they have been in a situation of where they have been essentially forced to run as an unchartered team. That questions whether or not 2311, if Bubba Wallace, if you had the other driver in there as well. I'm drawing a blank on him right now, but those two drivers that they had, that they're going to go and it could possibly cost them a chance at winning the championship. That's what it all boils down to. And so, it's still up in the air. We still don't know a whole lot more about what's going on, except Denny Hamlin was busy this past weekend, and he was voicing his concern and also saying he was very upset over the fact he'd brought it up on his Actions Detrimental podcast that he has, and he said that he smelled something. Just it reeked of this whole thing of NASCAR, what we talked about last week with one of the France family members wanting to try to get into the racing business and get his own. I mean, they're already in the racing business, but wanting to put a car out on the track. And I don't know what the deal with that whole thing was. It's now been hushed up. Nothing's going to come of it. And so, there's been a lot of talk this past week of, how upset Denny Hamlin's been about this whole thing. And it's also made me question, too, of whether or not NASCAR really knows what's going on, or at least some of them know what's going on. I mean, they're almost wrapped up in this lawsuit, so to speak. And I think more than anything else, the racing is sort of suffering right now at this point. And we'll talk about that when we talk about Ryan Blaney, because there's some rumors going on now in the garage area about what they might be doing when it comes short track time. But I don't know if they're going to have to wait that long. There's going to be some things that's going to happen.
I'm going to use my degree from 31 years ago in constitutional law to give a little bit of something here too. When I read more about this case, this was a three-judge panel from the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. One avenue that the plaintiffs, 2311 and Front Row, have is they can actually petition for a full hearing before the full court. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's nine judges. So
Yeah.
they have until June 19th to file that appeal. And Kessler,
Right.
you read from the quote, they're reviewing the decision to determine the next step. I'd be surprised if Kessler, who's a pretty high powered attorney, doesn't request that full court of appeals hearing.
Right.
And so that's just another step, clearly. And that's, I mean, the only other step after that is to go to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And that would delay things, and because this is just for an injunction. I don't know that you go to
Mm-hmm.
the Supreme Court for an injunction with a trial scheduled for December 1st. So, um, But they'll be the for fans out there. They're on the track this weekend. That's the important
Yeah,
part. So,
they're on the track.
so let's
So
talk NHRA. We know that what was it last week, or you were down in Bristol for the celebrity race,
right.
and that was helping promote the NHRA weekend at Bristol this weekend. So,
Hmm.
give us some sense. What's going to be going on down in Bristol this weekend?
Well, there's going to be a lot of scenarios probably playing out. We're going to see whether or not Brittany Force and also Austin Prock can continue their ways of speed right now. It seems like John Force Racing has suddenly come up with speed and, setting records 341 miles an hour on a drag strip, going down and just incredible just to see that number 341 for Brittany Force, and that's the fastest she's ever gone. In the sport, and it's something to talk about. But you've also got some other players in this. Matt Hagan from Blacksburg, who of course drives for Tony Stewart. He's going to be there trying to at least pull off a win. He hasn't been able to pull off a win at Bristol, I think, since 2015 or 2017. And so he's going to be looking for some hometown crowd support, especially he considers it a hometown track, only being about an hour and a half to 2 hours away for him. But he's going to be looking for things. Tony Stewart has picked up a Wally or two this year, and he's looking for a great performance at Bristol this coming weekend. He'd like nothing more than to come back to Bristol in a different setting, a different scenario, and pull off a win, especially there in front of the crowd at Thunder Valley. And then you also have Antron Brown, who is doing remarkable things this season. He's been winning some races, winning some heat races, and grabbing some trophies. But the unfortunate thing is he's never won at Bristol. We're just going to have to wait and see if that they're going to be able to get everything together for this race and be able to contend Friday, Saturday, and then the finals being on Sunday. So a lot of things playing into this. Clay Milliken won several years ago down at Bristol on Father's Day. He thinks that's a big track for him to be able to regroup. He almost did last year. He almost pulled off a win before losing in the final bracket. So a lot of different scenarios here, and we'll get a chance to hopefully sit down and hear something from Tony Stewart and Matt Hagan this coming weekend. They're supposed to be available for some pressers they're going to have there at Thunder Valley. So we hope to get some quotes from Tony Stewart.
Trying to find the TV is hard. Where are they on TV this
It'll
weekend?
be on Fox, and I think some
Okay.
of it'll be on FS1 too.
Okay.
So
Good. Good. I was on NHRA.com and having a hard time there. So yeah. So check all that out. If you can't get down there, I mean, check it out on
mhm.
TV. Certainly, they'll be in our backyard here coming up this weekend. So. All right, let's turn our attention back to last weekend in Nashville and the Cracker Barrel 400. Ryan Blaney secures his first victory of the
Mhm.
2025 season. But had a pretty dominant race, led almost half the laps. Break down what happened.
Um, well, it was kind of a plain Jane race. I mean, there wasn't a lot of excitement with this race. Although they said seven cautions or something like that for some spins and things and hitting the wall, but Ryan Blaney at least asserted himself and came from behind and won this race. And there for a while I thought Kyle Busch was actually going to pull something off. He had some good numbers. He was in the top 10 there for a while. But I think the key was this late race pit that everybody had to do in order to make it. And it messed up it messed up Denny Hamlin more than anything else. Denny Hamlin was he was leading there for a long time, hoping to win the race. And then here came Ryan Blaney, and he just kept on getting faster and faster. But he wasn't the one that was really getting as fast as everybody else. That was Carson Hocevar. And Carson Hocevar, if he had been, had a little bit more time, and I think some of the tires had started to kind of slack off on the leaders, I think he could have probably won this race, and it had been his first NASCAR victory. But Carson, unfortunately, is in the the eyesight, or at least the crosshairs of one Ricky Stenhouse Jr. right now, because Ricky Stenhouse Jr. says he's not going to do anything to him on camera, but you just wait. He'll do something to him in the pit somewhere to where nobody's going to be able to see what's going on. So I don't know, what the case may be, but he claims that Carson Hocevar is doing some rough driving, and it always falls back on somebody. You got to blame somebody, and that's what at least in this case, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is doing. He's blaming somebody for his unfortunate demise in the race on Sunday.
We remember Ricky Stenhouse Jr. from that fight with, was it Kyle Busch last year?
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and his father in the fight
Yeah.
with Kyle
Yeah.
Busch. Um, uh, with the win, Blaney, all three Penske drivers now have secured a playoff spot. So that's a big deal for that team.
Yeah, that's true. And oh, by the way, just as we're now recording this, I just get an email and information from Bristol Motor Speedway and Dragway that due to the weather, possible pending weather on Friday, NHRA officials have announced a schedule change for Friday's two Mission Foods Drag Racing Series qualifying sessions. They're going to move up the Pro Stock motorcycle, and Pro Stock has been moved up to 3 and 5:30, and so that means Funny Car and Top Fuel will follow at 4 and 6:30. And so the racing is scheduled to begin in the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series. That's the smaller guys. That's the ones that have not made it to the big time yet. They still do this. The Weekend Warriors, if you want to call them that, they'll be racing starting at 8 o'clock on Friday. So weather is going to play a little bit of a factor in this. I think they're expecting some bad weather, some thunderstorms or something to roll through, and possibility of some rain on Sunday. So we're looking at this situation again, sort of like what we have with a NASCAR race, just, wanting to know whether or not we're going to get through this. It's a little different with drag racing because they will, wait until that's over with. But hey, they're going to commit. They're going to make sure that track is clean. It's got some rubber laid on it. They're going to make sure that some things are taken care of before they race. And that's one thing I like about the NHRA and stuff. When they see this thing materializing weather-wise, they're on it quick and they make a change, and that's what they're doing for Friday.
That's great. We got some breaking news here as far as that goes. It's a great update. Yeah, most sports don't. I was struck the other day. It was one day last week. The Baltimore Orioles had a home game. They moved up to start of a home game. I never have seen that in Major League Baseball before, but they wanted to
Mm-hmm.
get ahead of weather and they did it. You see it in college all the time. But yeah, great for NHRA because you want to get the racing in. And with Sunday also being, I looked at the forecast as you were talking there, Rod. Yeah, Sunday looks
Mm-hmm.
like a fun day too, weather-wise, down in Bristol. So that's
I'm looking, well, I'll tell you, I'm looking at probably a very early start on
yeah,
Sunday,
yeah.
just to be able to beat this system out, or hope that they can get in so much. And then if it does rain, they can probably, wait a little while and close it back out later in the afternoon. So, it's a kind of a touch and go sort of thing. But that walk, they have that famous walk where everybody, from the crowd and everything can walk down the dragway. And of course, I've been down through there before in the car and everything. And it's a terrific event, but that probably will be one of the things and I'm saying if the weather does present itself on Sunday, that might be moved up a little bit and they may go into some, the finals, pretty quick on Sunday morning.
Yeah, that it doesn't make it easy for the scheduling, certainly that
No.
they have to do work. But yeah, they can do their best. If they start early, they can get in the windows where they can maybe get some racing in. So this weekend also, then NASCAR Cup Series is back out at Michigan
Hmm.
for a 2 o'clock start, 2 o'clock Eastern start. What do you think we can look forward to in Michigan this weekend?
Um, it will be interesting because they're going back to what I would consider a little bit more of a super speedway this time around. Michigan's a pretty big track. Roger Penske owns this track, and we'll get to see if Ryan Blaney can continue that success. And well, we'll see if Ross Chastain can maybe pick things up. He had a decent race this past weekend, but I don't know if very many of the drivers are going to be looking at Michigan this week as much as they're going to be looking at Mexico coming up in 2 weeks. I think the Michigan race is going to be something that, yeah, they're going to have to pay attention to. but they're going into what I feel like is a virtual unknown in Mexico with this race coming up in 2 weeks. And I got a couple of things sent in to me this morning that NASCAR is going to use the podiums, the 1, 2, and 3 finishing order, the podiums down in Mexico. That's a first because NASCAR is usually let the winner enjoy himself in victory lane, but they're going to put all three of the top three finishers there on the podiums like they normally do for a Formula One, Grand Prix race. That's what they're going to do. I think the biggest thing coming out of this weekend is to determine whether or not NASCAR is going to make changes to this next generation car coming up soon. And they need to do it sooner rather than later, because the rumor coming out of the garage is that NASCAR is looking at maybe increasing some horsepower on the short tracks. That would give us a little bit more exciting racing. And that's what the drivers have been wanting. The drivers have been wanting this more horsepower. The question is, how does it translate over to the bigger tracks? How is it going to work? We have yet to see how it will work at the super speedways or anything, and we'll find out probably come, I'd say about the time that we roll around to the Brickyard is what we'll find out if they're going to do anything even for the super speedways. We'll have to find out what they're going to do. But that rumor's going around. I think there's a lot of talk going around in the pit area too, besides that, on when Dodge and Ram trucks is going to make their debut. I saw some pictures this morning. I can't say where the source came from. I just saw it. It was online, but there was a picture of a Ram truck being brought in. Looked like it had some painting on it, had Ram in big letters on the front grille. I don't think it was AI. There, no way it could have been, or A1, excuse me. Sorry, Linda McMahon here in that little reference, but I don't think it was AI in this, but they're looking to make an announcement maybe here very soon with Cletus McFarland, who he's kind of a comical driver, and he's raced on the ARCA series, and he's looking to make his Craftsman Truck Series debut in a Ram for next year, and they may be getting ready to make an announcement here in the next couple of weeks as to what the status of Ram is. And there's just a lot of things going on in the area. And we talked about this before about, and I put the article up also on Dickinson Media, and I think you shared it also on Augusta Free Press. Kyle Busch had re-upped with Richard Childress, and I'm starting to hear a little bit more stories and rumors in there about the fact that it may not be as much as Kyle as it may be for Brexton, his son. There's a possibility Richard Childress may latch on to him because Brexton's such a great driver on these little open wheel cars that he's been racing in. Who knows how long it'll be before Brexton gets in a car, but they say that there's some kind of connection there. And I don't know if Richard Childress is just trying to maybe bring Kyle Busch into a part-time ownership thing with him in this whole thing, but they claim they get along. Unfortunately, Richard Childress, I think, punched Kyle Busch several years ago in the face, so they must have, hugged and made up after this because they're obviously getting along very well now.
I mean, if you're getting along with Kyle Busch, you probably have to punch him in the face every once in a while just to, keep sanity. So,
Well, that's true, but I mean, Kyle's had a different approach this year. I mean, he's
yeah,
had a
yeah.
different approach. I think he's been brought back down to earth, especially the last 2 years that he's been with Richard Childress. I think not making the playoffs last year. He's on the bubble this year. He's on the bubble. He's close. I think at the end of the race on Sunday night, he was something like 2 points to the better of making, if the race, the playoffs were to start now, he would make the 16-team field. But, I don't know. And we've even got other things to start talking about, too. NASCAR's got this new kind of in playoff sort of thing that's coming up this weekend at Michigan. It'll start. It'll also include the race at Mexico City. I'll talk more about that next week, probably, of what all this is all about, because I'm still trying to figure it out too. How do you have a playoff inside of a playoff? Or in a series of races, but that's what NASCAR is getting ready to kick into, and it's almost going to be like almost like a Sweet 16 or a Final 32 or however you want to call it in basketball. But I think it's going to be some pluses for some drivers if they have some good performances over the next, I believe it's 4 or 5 races is what they're going to be doing this for. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I'll talk more about that next week.
Yeah, from what I can tell, the quick overview is it looks like a little bit of NCAA tournament and a little bit of
Hmm.
that NBA in-season tournament that the NBA's been doing the last couple.
That's it. That's what I'm thinking
So a
of.
little
So
bit of a mix there, and yeah, it should be more fun to talk. I looked up Rod while you were talking about Mexico City, just to see what the attendance might be down there. And of course, NASCAR doesn't reveal ticket numbers, but the place holds 120,000, and it routinely sells out for Formula One. So I would
mhm.
guess we're going to see 100,000 plus easily down there on the 15th. And it's just funny. I'm a wrestling fan as well. There's also an American wrestling show down in Mexico City 3 days later on the 18th.
Wow.
AEW is doing Grand Slam Mexico, and they've sold out their show, 16,500 seat arena. So a lot of American sports going on down in Mexico City the next couple of weeks. That'll have my attention as a NASCAR fan and a wrestling fan. So that's something to look forward to.
I don't think that affects anything about them flying out, does it? With President Trump and the travel thing of shutting some things down. I know they'll probably be driving in is what they'll probably be doing or coming across the border. But I saw that this morning about the travel thing and flying and so forth. About he was putting a kind of moratorium or something on some flying out or flying into some countries or something like that. I don't know really what it is, but I don't think it's going to affect Mexico that much.
I would wonder though. I don't know. I'm thinking off the top of my head. There are, you would know better than me. I know the wrestling people pretty well. The people in NASCAR who would be visa holders, who wouldn't be
Hmm.
American citizens. Right off the top of the head, Van Gisbergen probably
Hmm.
qualifies there. There's quite a few wrestlers. The wrestling roster for AEW includes some guys from Japan, and some guys from some Eastern European countries. So. Yeah, I'd be a little concerned about going across the border and then coming back and then them not letting me in,
Yep.
given how silly things are right now. As far as
Well, we know. Hey, we know Suarez. We know Suarez has got a ticket in and a ticket out because he's an American citizen now.
okay,
But
that helps.
he still has. They're anticipating a big crowd for him coming back. He's like their racing god, their son down there in Mexico City. And I mean, his dad, I think at one time used to own a junkyard or something there in Mexico City. And all that the Suarez family did for a long time was go back and redo and fix Volkswagens. And that's what I really would like to see. I would really just like to see one of those custom Volkswagens made by the Suarez family. I have seen one that Daniel was driving. I think he had it in Charlotte. It was a van of all things, was what it was. It was a van, and I was impressed by it. So I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it'll be interesting to find out. Oh, and I get another breaking news thing here. People who are familiar with drag racing, if you've ever heard of the name Del Worsham, Del Worsham was one of drag racing's most gifted drivers back years ago when I've heard of him, and he's sort of in that same category as Big Daddy Don Garlitz, there, Don the Snake Prudhomme, there in that company. Well, they're going to honor him as the 2025 Legend of Thunder Valley. So his name goes up on the facade there, and where the spectators will be watching the race and everything. And he goes into the Hall of Fame, or the Legend of Thunder Valley is one of them this coming weekend. So that announcement has just been made. So that'll be interesting to see him. He's 55 years old. Gosh, makes me feel old. I'm 60 almost, and he's just 55. But he's the 22nd inductee into this whole thing with the Legends of Thunder Valley. So it'll be a good day, I'm sure, a good weekend altogether for NHRA.
When I started feeling old as a sports fan, Rod, was when I got to the age where the guys who were rookies when I was, in my 20s started
Hmm.
retiring. And you're like, man, I watched that guy play for like 15 years and now he's retired. Uh,
Yep.
he's old now. What does that mean? What does that say about me?
What does that say about me? Exactly. What does that say about me? And it's just, it's like baseball. It's like my love hate relationship with baseball and stuff. I go back, and when I start following the Reds again, a little bit more intently, they're all new faces. I don't know who a lot of them are, and I know that they're all younger than I am. So there's really no little rye veterans that's on this team and stuff. Old guys that's kind of leading the way. I guess they probably wish they had a Johnny Bench or somebody kind of leading the way for some of this bunch. But in another way, it would be. I think some of them would probably not be too happy about being a part of that because the youngsters do things their way anymore. It's not the way that it used to be in the dugout and the way things are in the locker room. It's just not the same anymore.
My wife, Crystal, is the one who, when we're watching a game on TV, will say, "Man, that pitcher looked like he's 12 years old."
Yeah,
And the older you get, yeah, guys who are in their early 20s start looking like they're 12 or 13 years old. Like that guy probably doesn't even shave yet, you know? I mean,
probably. Yeah, that's true.
and when we were that age, everybody looked old. Like I'm 50, I'll be 53 here in a couple weeks. 53 was ancient. 53
Hmm.
is actually pretty young now. So,
Oh yeah, I mean that's young, and I keep on trying to believe that when I turn 60, it's going to be the new 50 or the new 40 for me or something like that. But the doctors have got a lot of work on me to have to do yet. I've still got to get some joint problems kind of cured and get myself back into shape a little bit more. Man, I'm telling you, driving the tractor around on during the week and cutting the field here. It's not exactly my cup of tea, but I enjoy it. But man, when I get off that thing, I feel like I have been beat black and blue in a wrestling match, is the way I feel. I feel like
my
I've been body slammed.
You've been to my house in Waynesboro. My house is on a hill, and
Hmm.
I push smoke because it wouldn't be enough certainly to do a tractor. I wish it was. It takes me an hour, and the front yard is almost like straight up. I
Mm,
feel like I've been working when I get done with that
yeah.
yard.
You get a workout. You definitely get a workout out of that, no doubt.
Well, Rod, as always, thanks for your time and your insight on NASCAR and NHRA. We have a lot to talk about next week, and we'll look forward to your reporting over the weekend as well.
Okay, appreciate it, Chris. Thanks.